Amazon Web Services is investigating an outage that took down some of the world's most popular websites. Amazon says everything's back up and running, but customers can still expect some lingering delays. ABC's Matt Rivers has more. Matt?
So Amazon now saying that the main issue that caused this outage has been resolved, though any lingering problems that remain will be fixed up throughout the day today. This all comes down to a problem with Amazon Web Services, or AWS, one of their key facilities in Northern Virginia experiencing issues that led to this systemic outage. We're talking about millions of businesses that use Amazon Web Services to store their data, run their applications and services. In fact, roughly a third of all websites on the internet use it. It's difficult to believe how many use it. So this outage immediately sent shockwaves around the world. This outage so massive, in fact, it's really hard to pinpoint an industry that wasn't affected by this. We're talking aviation, dining, sports betting, social media apps, gaming, even home security. The list really goes on and on. Some people couldn't even order McDonald's on the app, couldn't hail Ubers, couldn't send messages on Snapchat, couldn't play online games. Lots of everyday kind of things were affected by this outage. Experts say the outage is a reminder of the vulnerability that we face as a society when so much of what we do on the internet is routed through a small number of private providers. Diane, it really is a scary reminder of all that.
It sure is. Matt Rivers, thank you. And ABC News technology reporter Mike Dobuski is here to break this down for us a little bit further. So, Mike, you say these outages are becoming a relatively normal occurrence. Why?
Yeah, so there's any number of things that can go wrong with a system that is as complex as Amazon Web Services. This could be something as simple as a faulty bit of code being shipped, a third party that Amazon contracts out with that did an update that maybe doesn't play well with the rest of the service. We do know the general nature of the problem. This all goes back to a domain name service, Diane, which is a piece of technology that basically translates human language, what you or I would type into a web browser, into computer language, an IP address. We don't know specifically what went wrong, but that's kind of the general shape of the problem. But again, these are really complex systems, and it's really easy for them to go wrong.
So, what kind of changes can you put in place to prevent something like this? If something as simple as one person presumably typing in one wrong key can cause a huge disruption.
Yeah, so there are certainly protocols that companies like Amazon and the other major players in the space like Microsoft and Google can implement in order to, stop shipping as faulty code. We've also seen the rise of generative artificial intelligence in coding. And unfortunately, humans are imperfect, so is artificial intelligence. So there's always going to be some level of imperfection here. And in the same way that you occasionally come across a typo in a book or your order at Starbucks is wrong, there's also going to be problems in these codes. So there's certainly things that we can shore up, but humans are imperfect at the end of the day.
And you say some of this is also due to the fact that three companies are essentially in control here.
Yeah, I think that's the big takeaway here, Diane, is that Amazon accounts for a little over a third of the cloud computing market. Another third is accounted for by Microsoft and Amazon. We've centralized a lot of power into the hands of just three companies. And 99% of the time, that's okay. These are pretty robust services that, have good uptime and they fix problems as they arise. But that 1% of the time when things go wrong, there's these huge repercussions, right? It has an outsized impact. I think what you're really going to start to see from the tech sector over the next few weeks or months here is this discussion of diversifying your cloud computing infrastructure. Instead of putting all your eggs into the AWS basket, you maybe put a couple eggs over here into like Microsoft and a couple eggs over here into maybe a third party that isn't as robust or at scale as some of these other companies, but maybe is more resilient to these types of outages.
You sort of, I think, anticipated my next question, which is there anything we can do as individuals to protect ourselves? Is that the only answer? Try to diversify the services you're using?
Yeah, unfortunately, there's not a ton that the individual can do on this front, right? I don't have any say in where Starbucks hosts its app, for example. But, this really does come back to the companies. And I think, this could start at the small business level, thinking about, hey, I run a cafe in New York City. Maybe I want to, have my payment processing go to this cloud computer and my, payroll go to this computer, whatever it happens to be. That's kind of the size of it. Again, we exist online. If you run, any program online, if you work online at any degree, you're going to touch these companies and you're going to feel the impacts when they start to go wrong.
All right. So at this point, cross our fingers and hope for the best. That's our individual game plan. All right. Mike Dobuski, we appreciate you coming in. Thank you.
Of course.